This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. Here's not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Thursday, 23 July, year of our Lord 2026. We're Neil McCabe still with us. Neil, I want your final thoughts. We're going to cut you loose and let you get into the briefing room. The crack production and directing team in Denver, which guides us here as we do our thing here in the War Room, tells me that it may be a few minutes late, and these guys are very rarely wrong. McCabe, your closing thoughts, sir, and observations.
Yeah, I just want to, I really want to touch on what you said before about legislation. The legislative calendar in Washington, D.C. is more important than politics or policy. It runs from the State of the Union to the 4th of July. That's why the one big beautiful bill passing on the 3rd of July was so significant. From July 4th to maybe the lame duck session, you're not going to get anything done. And so it really is an opportunity lost. And in many ways, the Senate Republicans, led by Thune, were running out the clock because if they could get past July 4th, they knew nothing was going to get done. Second thing I want to say is, being actually in Georgia, whenever you travel, you want to grab the local papers. You want to see what's going on locally. Rick Jackson has a life story that's out of Charles Dickens, and they just respond to him. They bonded with him. The crowd loved him. When he spoke with President Trump on stage, he said if he's elected governor of Georgia, he wants the state of Georgia to match the federal contributions to the Trump accounts. And he said, and if the legislature doesn't do it, I'll do it myself. I'll pay for it myself out of my own pocket. That is a king. And I think the president responded to that, Steve.
Yeah, I think the jury's still open on Jackson, but that's a topic for another time. You nailed something very important for inside baseball. It's that you get past July 4th, they know it's one of these midterm years. They know they're going to get out of town and get back. Also, there's a technicality Delois Stallman brings up to me that August 5th is like a tripwire date by federal law, I think, or at least a consent decree, that there's a quiet period, like in an IPO, right? There's a quiet period you can't get to the voter rolls. Anyway, we'll break all that down on tomorrow's show, but a lot of work. I happen to think, in laying out the predicate, you're absolutely correct you're absolutely correct. If we can't get Save America Act done shortly and people overwhelmingly support it, you're going to have to look at all the alternatives. That's why I just keep saying, hey, at the end of the day, you're going to get to an executive order that's going to have to take care of this. What we need to do now is lay the predicate for all the challenges that are come to that, because it's going to come to that. I just don't see any path forward with Thune and these guys going out of the way to block it. Anyway, Neil McCabe will let you get into the press briefing room, and we'll talk to you this afternoon. The president's going to EPA. The Los Angeles Dodgers are coming into the White House. It's packed today. McCabe's going to be back with us hopefully at 5 o'clock to talk about what went on during the day. Neil, thank you. What's your social media, Neil? How do people follow you?
You can find me on all the socials at Reporter McCabe, Steve. Good to be with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. So, Bolling, once again, talk about the setting you're in, because this thing has been going on in Vegas for years. These are people that are mom and pops. They're very entrepreneurial. They come to hear the best and the brightest on Wall Street talk about it. It's always been people that actively want to manage their own money, at least part of their own money, right? They're very attuned to, like, there used to be a lot of day traders. A lot of people from crypto used to come in. Where's their mindset now? Because I think this is a great, like we saw yesterday in Georgia, the audience exploded on the Save America Act, okay? It was exploded on the Save America Act. The out there, this is another good proxy or indicator of where people are that focus more on the economy. So where are their heads at?
I think to be honest with you, Steve, we're entrenched in the politics, and we have been for a while. But there's the number of people involved in the money markets and finances, taking care of their own nest egg, trading, trying to supplement their income, dwarfs the number of people who would tune into politics every day. It's a massive group of people, and that massive group of people really moves markets, moves the economy. And from finance people hate indecision. They hate not understanding completely what the numbers are. You can be wrong, but when you don't know what the numbers are, or you think the numbers are, they're telling you something that's not true, there are laws against that. So the consensus I hear is, I just wish we knew what was going on. Like, if we're going to go to full blown kinetic war with Iran, then do it already. At least we can find the right areas to get into, get out of. I'll tell you a good example. Yesterday, one of the things I was talking inflation, I said, do you realize something? Yesterday, the day before, I said, yesterday, Pete Hegseth was on Capitol Hill testifying to the Appropriations Committee, and they asked for $1.5 trillion. At $980 billion last year, it was by far the most spending on defense any country, any year by multiples. But they want a 56% increase in defense spending. What does that tell you, folks? There's plans to be more kinetic. Like it or not, I'm a money guy. I don't like the idea. And I talk to people about where to start investing your money. You need to be in drones. You need to be in shipbuilding. You need to be in all the technology that powers the drones and the new modern warfare era. And it hasn't really responded yet. And this is what people are about. They want the information. They want to be able to make their own decision. But when you get one day, everything's clear, peaceful, let's let Iran sell oil, they're so good. And then, 5 days later, we're bombing them, or Saudi ships are taking incoming from Houthis. The confusion, the indecision, I guess, on our part, really, because we're holding the cards. The indecision is what buries traders, people who are thinking. And when I say traders, I don't mean Wall Street fat cats with private planes. I'm talking about mom and pop who grabbed me at the coffee bar and said, I'm very worried. I'm very worried about where my nest egg is going to be. Is it going to be enough for me to retire with? These are real people's fears, Stephen. This is why, when I come on here and I say, let's get the hell out of the Middle East because the midterms matter, I get lit up by the pure political people. They only want the politics. They only want, let's kill them. Let's do that. Without the realization that the American people who are trying to put gas in the car, food on the table, don't want to pay $4.50 for a gallon. Don't want to pay $100 to fill up the F-150. Don't want to pay, $7 for a dozen eggs and a loaf of bread. They want prices down. That's what matters to people. And guess what those people are? They're voters. We hear the loudest people in the room. Those are the politicians, the political people, the political population. The bigger number, the masses are more interested in, can I take care of my family? Can I feed my kid? Can I put clothes on my child to go to school? So inflation, and that's oil.
If you're on a fixed income, let me ask you, for that audience out there, which I kind of call the Warren posse of retail investors or smaller investors, do they understand the specter of what the alternative is right now? The specter of Mamdani, the specter of exactly what's going on in the specter of what's going on in with the Democratic Socialists, their solutions this, because the happy talk moderates you got in the Democratic Party have no stroke. You're going to get Democratic socialism rammed down your throat.
They hear it, and I think they think it's, things that political people on the right fighting with people on the left fight about. I don't think they realize the ramifications of what socialism really is. But what happens is when they're nervous about prices, they vote the other way. And that's when you get socialism. That's when you get a change in economic systems. Steve, the fear of Iran bombing the United States generally is not even spoke of. It's not even talked about. Yeah. The fear of Mamdani spreading isn't the issue for them. The issue for them is finances. They vote with their wallet. James Carville, nut job that he is, nailed it. It's the economy, stupid, right? He put Bill Clinton in the White House with one bumper sticker. It's the economy, stupid. So that's he was right then. He's right now.
Over a guy, although he was a minority president at 42%, over a guy that had won the Gulf War, and it was at 92% approval rating, I think, at one time. Clinton came in. Obviously, Ross Perot had a huge thing to do with it, but it shows you how quickly it can shift. Okay, let's go to the markets imploding. You
Mhm.
and EJ and Tony had an absolute, or Philip Patrick had an absolute called shot on this SpaceX thing. It was kind of brilliant at the time. You said, hey, they came to you because you already own some shares. They want to get you in this round. You go, you know what, guys?
Mhm.
I think I'm topped off. Check back with me in a month. And you said, hey, in a month, I think this thing's, I can buy it at $100. At the time, even in the chats, people were laughing at you because this is when the IPO, they were getting super hyped. Now Elon's sitting there going, this company is worth more than the value of the earth. Are people responding, sir?
Well, Steve, you're right. They offer. I had shares because when you're a bigger investor, hey, we're going to get you shares. Everyone wants this SpaceX stock. It's going to go literally beyond the moon to Mars. Can I get some? How can I get some? I got a few shares because I was a long time trader, and then they came to me and said, "Hey, I can get you more." The day before the IPO, I can get you more. I said, "No, thank you." And I stuck. The hype was just too much. So IPOs at 150, goes up to $225 a share within a week. I was on your show saying, I said the day before, I said, Steve, I think you'll be able to buy it under 100. You may have spit your coffee out at the time because every single headline was SpaceX is, you can't get it, you can't get the stock. And we're at 112 right now. We're about to break 112 after 250, the high. So let's put, you think you had a bad day, like a trader, if you lose 3% of your trading book or your value or your savings, you had a bad day. Elon Musk is down 50% of his net worth. 50%. He lost $750 billion between SpaceX coming down $120 a share and Tesla's down $50 a share. They had an earnings miss late last night. That is $750 billion in 1 week, 2 weeks.
What is the issue is now that it's not the lack of the business plan and any kind of realistic. I told people, read the perspective. Don't take it from me. Read the perspective.
She did.
If
She did.
I'd worked on that at Goldman Sachs when I was there, I'd have been fired by the partners and I should have been fired.
She did.
But when you had joint and several liability back in the old days,
can I tell you something?
they would be the partners at Goldman have been
important.
eating this. They've been eating this
This
IPO
is-
right now, right?
This is important. Goldman Sachs reported earnings last week. They crushed it. They made hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, several, maybe dozens of billions of dollars on SpaceX. They,
in the old days,
investors lost. Elon Musk lost from the high. We're all sucking wind. I mean, I am to a much lesser extent than I could have, really. But the banks, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, just destroyed their core.
Where are the customers' yachts? Real quickly, the shorts are in the stock now. Explain to people what shorts are and why. And Elon has said, "Hey, I'm going to kill them all." Right? They may be shorting my stock, but I'm going to kill them all. We got a minute. Tell people what shorts are.
Very quickly. When you like a stock, you think it's going up, you buy it. If you don't have a position, you say, I think it's too high, which is what we were talking about then. You can short a stock, but you have to borrow the stock from someone and short it. You make money if the stock goes down, you lose money if it goes up from where you shorted it. There are shorts. I'll tell you what, though, Steve. Elon Musk, they just declared August 6th is the end of the first quarter, which means some of those shares that insiders hold, Musk and the employees, I think he made like 1,000 billionaires on SpaceX. Some of those insider shares can be unlocked, which means there's going to be waves of selling into August 6th. I'll stand by it, Steve. I'm going to buy SpaceX under $100. And I don't think there's a soul who thought I was going to be right. Maybe you did.
But I didn't think it'd be this quick. You said, "Hey, check with me in 30 days. I'll buy it under $100." It's getting there. Bolling, where do people go and find? What's your social media so they can keep up with you at the Money Show?
Yeah, at Eric Bolling, EricBolling. Just hit me up all social media platforms, but also on War Room, and love to get Steve Bannon at 4:00 change over to the 5:00 Eastern once in a while.
Okay, we'll try to do that. I think the Dodgers are there at the White House. Anyway, I'll talk to you after the show. Good luck at the Money Show. People are very fortunate to have Eric Bolling out there. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Steve.
Short commercial break. We're still awaiting the beginning of the press conference at the White House. We'll jump to that as soon as it starts. Short commercial break. Back in Warm in a moment.
What about Lake and Riley?
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
When you talk about cost, one thing, and this is the beauty of what Obamacare did to us, now that the underwriting, the federal kind of bailout, what I call it, of the Obamacare is off, the costs there have exploded. You hear people all the time saying, hey, I can't afford health insurance. I got a choice between putting food on the table for the kids or paying my rent or my mortgage or healthcare. And some of these costs are explosive every month. There is an alternative, but you've got to understand why this is an alternative and kind of buy into it. America's Health Share is the company or the collective. You go to freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. That's freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. They've got a site with all the information. More importantly, they put you in touch with the senior people running the company. Now, this has been going on for a while, and it's been very successful. But you have to understand it's not traditional health insurance, although it can slash your health insurance or what you're paying for it, over and over again. Make sure you talk to the professionals over there. And I think I'm going to have they've got a head chief medical officer. They also have one of the founders. Absolutely brilliant of how they've done this, and the reviews on it have been just tremendous. So go to freedomforhealth.org. That's freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. You get a month free, but the month free is not the deal. This is a totally different alternative to your traditional health insurance. And I will tell you, if you're sitting there going, hey, my bill's too high, I just can't afford it anymore, I'm thinking of just dropping it, check this alternative out before you do it. Okay, two things. When you cut through all the fog of war happening on Capitol Hill, and I think Neil gave us real inside baseball about traditionally, hey, after they get past July, they ain't doing nothing but marking time until they blow out of here for their August recess. This August recess, you got to ask yourself, does my job do this for me? They're going to take off right now, and they may go earlier, but they're going to take off. They're planning on taking off, I think, at the end of the first week of August. They're not back. They're technically not back, I think, until 14 September. So they're not coming back until the middle of September. Then they're here for a couple of weeks. Then they're leaving, quote unquote, for the entire month of October, basically, to campaign. So there's really only a few weeks left to get anything done. This is why for months and months and months, we've been talking about Save America. We are the only channel to cover everything live back a couple of months ago when the heroic Mike Lee tried to get some momentum so that you actually break the phony filibuster we have now and go to a standing filibuster or a talking filibuster and actually bring it home, because the Democrats would eventually, after weeks, crater. The leadership in the Senate with McConnell, these guys had no interest. They've had no interest really in President Trump's legislative agenda at all. Big, beautiful bill when you're getting taxed. Now, the tax cuts were the last chance of supply side tax cuts, did some great things, particularly on taxes and tips, in Social Security, some tremendous things there. The president talked about it yesterday that resonates well as kind of populist economics and with the MAGA base, and people are very, very appreciative. But it had a whole bunch of other stuff in there, particularly for the corporations. And it was a supply side tuck to start to draw jobs back here to the United States. And as Scott Besant told you, we were getting the green sprouts of kind of this American renaissance of manufacturing. Now, all of that basically has been put off. There's still some great things happening, but basically the war is overwhelming everything, not just in the opinion polls and the actuality of how we're hitting on the economy, although there are great things happening. You can see in the 10, in the 30, and this is why I think it's just too cavalier attitude with the spending. The spending is part of a massive reason why there's inflation. The spending is also one of the reasons that it's so expensive to refinance the $40 trillion that we've got on the balance sheet. You know, Scott Bessant's got he's got this issue with having to refinance, I think, a third of it. The 10-year Treasury has now blown through the 4.5, which is always the warning signal. Now I think it's at 4.7. You should know. Pull out your credit card bill, because that 10-year Treasury, as we tell you, is the thing that controls your financial life, whether it's your loans, your car loan, your student loan, if you have a home equity loan, if your credit cards, all of it's kind of based upon the 10-year Treasury. And so that's exploded. And there's been this, even on the reconciliations, people are coming up, it's just more money. They want more money. If you want more defense spending, you have to cooperate with the Democrats to give more social spending. Like, we need more social spending. We're finding out that most of those programs are just rife with corruption, rife with fraud. And as people try to do that, it's taking a while to kind of get traction on that part of it. And so this is just, we're in a vicious cycle of this kind of spending that has got to be financed somehow. And that financing is basically selling government securities. And it's getting more and more difficult all the time, although there's a big appetite for that because the full faith and credit of the American people, and that would be you. You're the full faith and credit that people take government securities when the U.S. government issues them, that you're not going to default on. Although I would argue that this continual the inflation, and particularly saw in Biden, kills the purchasing power of the dollar. That's essentially a rolling devaluation. It's one of the people so concerned. This is the reason that gold went from $1,100 an ounce now up to over $5,000 at one time, and now over $4,000. People are very concerned about this. You see at the Money Show, folks on fixed incomes are very concerned about inflation because, hey, your lifestyle is going to radically change if nothing else changes. Okay, we're about to go live. We're going to go live to they've given us the 30-second heads up, and we're going to jump live. I will say, though, the thing we have to be fighting now and focused on in the Senate is stopping this NDAA with this ridiculous Section 219. It cannot happen. This is merging the two industrial bases of ourselves and Israel. It's just the timing's bad on that. Let's go to the White House press briefing room. Caroline Levitt.
Announcements. Later this afternoon, President Trump will welcome the Los Angeles Dodgers back to the White House to celebrate their second consecutive World Series championship. Tomorrow night, the president will attend the White House Correspondents Association Dinner Round 2, celebrating free speech and the First Amendment alongside all of you, members of the media. The president looks forward to finishing what he started before a despicable assassination attempt derailed the original event back in April, as we all know. And I encourage everyone watching tomorrow night to tune in for what promises to be a very entertaining and memorable evening. Looking ahead to next week, on Monday, President Trump will travel to Michigan to deliver remarks on the economy. On Tuesday afternoon, the president will deliver a tribute honoring the life and legacy of his dear friend, Senator Lindsey Graham, at the National Cathedral. And next Friday, the president will host the 13th cabinet meeting of this term at Camp David, which will be a lot of fun and something different for the cabinet to experience together. Turning now to the economy. A little more than a year after President Trump signed the Working Families Tax Cuts into law, this historic legislation continues to deliver on its promise, unleashing a genuine boom for American workers, families, and small businesses. The numbers speak for themselves. This was the biggest tax refund season in American history, with the average refund exceeding $3,400, an 11% increase over the last year. American families and workers claimed $82 billion in direct tax relief, and 97% of filers received a tax cut. More than 29 million workers claimed no tax on overtime. More than 35 million seniors claimed no tax on Social Security. And nearly 8 million workers claimed no tax on tips. Thanks to the other pro-growth provisions in the Working Families Tax Cuts, like making the 20% small business tax deduction permanent and delivering 100% expensing for new factories, equipment, and research, the Trump administration is setting up American manufacturers and workers to thrive like never before. Just this week, the National Association of Manufacturers, which is the largest manufacturing association in the country, released a detailed report showing exactly how these tax cuts are driving investment, job creation, innovation, and long-term growth in all 50 states. In fact, I'd like to take a moment to highlight just a few of the real American businesses that this law is helping. Pivot Manufacturing in Arizona made the largest equipment purchase in company history after the Trump tax cuts gave them the long-term certainty to invest with confidence. Winton Machine Company in Georgia is on pace for the best year in its history. Ketchy Inc. in North Carolina was able to purchase new machinery and expand its workforce by 25%. And Juergens in Ohio expanded its brand new facility to increase production. And they're also paying their workers even more thanks to the no tax on overtime provision. These are not just great statistics. These are American businesses with the confidence to grow, hire, and invest right here at home rather than offshoring their jobs. And a business opening or expanding in this country means more opportunity and higher wages for American workers. It means a chance for the American dream for young families, and it means restoring the belief that we can make and build things right here at home. This is what President Trump promised, and it's exactly what he is delivering with the help of Republicans in Congress. Democrats throw around the word affordability a lot, but when they had the chance to vote for the largest middle-class tax cuts in history, they refused. If Democrats got their way, it would have meant the largest tax increase in history, $4 trillion. 90% of Americans would have seen their taxes go up, and it would have been a complete disaster for our economy. That's the Democrat solution to, quote, affordability. It is raising your taxes. So I hope the press will cover more of the massive success stories resulting from the working families tax cuts and point out that every single Democrat on Capitol Hill voted against every single common sense provision that put more money back into the pockets of the American people. Finally, on the energy front, after this briefing, President Trump will participate in a historic ratepayer protection pledge event at the EPA headquarters down the street. The president will expand the ratepayer protection pledge to governors, state legislatures, developers, and power providers to ensure that everyone involved in building and powering data centers pays their own way, instead of passing those costs on to hardworking families. The president will be joined by Energy Secretary Chris Wright, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, and several governors who have already signed on to this pledge. And it has already proven to be remarkably successful. Nearly 200 additional stakeholders have signed on since it was first announced, including utilities, data center developers, public power authorities, co-ops, and state governors. As a result, the pledge now covers 80% of all the power delivered to American homes and businesses. President Trump's bold leadership is turning data centers from a source of concern into engines of growth and opportunity for communities across this country, all while cementing America's dominance over China in the global AI race. The president is ensuring the American people are never left footing the bill so private companies can benefit. Instead, President Trump is leveraging the data center boom to deliver real, tangible benefits for working families and small businesses. So we have a busy day here, rest assured. I'll take some questions. And here in our new media seat, we have Cam from Town Hall. Cam, thank you for being here. Why don't you kick us off today?
Thank you. Two quick questions. One on Congress. First off, Speaker Mike Johnson passed a continuing resolution earlier this week. John Thune has said he wants to work with Democrats to find a way to fund the government. What is the White House's stance on the best way to keep the government funded?
Well, the White House's stance is that the government needs to be funded. This president and Republicans on Capitol Hill from both chambers, as you just mentioned, the House and the Senate Republicans want to keep the government open. We want to work together to find ways to do that, and the White House will continue to have discussions with Senate leadership on the best path forward. I don't want to get ahead of those conversations, but the most important thing for the American people to know is that this president and this White House wants the government to remain open, unlike the Democrats in this town who have been acting as obstructionists. We've seen time and time again, they have chosen to block this administration, to block Republicans in Congress from keeping our government open, which does not help anyone, and it especially hurts the American people who depend on our government remaining open so they can access the critical services that our government provides to so many Americans across the country. So these conversations are continuing, but I think I just made the president's position quite clear.
Thank you. And then on the Saudi Arabian nuclear deal, what steps is the U.S. taking to get Saudi Arabia to sign the Abraham Accords?
Sure. Well, the president himself has spoken on this many times. His Truth Social post this morning, and I will read it for those at home who missed it. The civil nuclear deal, there will be no enrichment of material, an important point being made between the Department of Energy and Saudi Arabia, which pertains only to non-military use. will be approved, but is totally subject to Saudi Arabia joining the very respected and successful Abraham Accords. The United States is not opposed to civil nuclear facilities, as we all know. Look, this is a condition that the president has spoken about many times with our Gulf and Arab allies. He wants to see these countries sign the Abraham Accord. It was one of the most historic accomplishments of his first term, and it continues to be a long-term goal of his to expand those accords to ultimately come to a place where the Middle East can be a peaceful and stable region. And yes, this deal with Saudi Arabia, the energy deal, is contingent on this condition as far as the president is concerned. So we'll continue to talk with our Saudi counterparts to get the deal finalized and hopefully see them joining the Abraham Accords very soon. Thank you. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you. With regards to the Saudi nuclear deal, why was that condition not mentioned yesterday when the Energy Secretary announced it?
Well, look, the president is always the final deal maker, as you know, and this is something that he has mentioned on numerous occasions going back. I can provide you with those statements, and he has said if they don't join the Abraham Accords, the deal is off. So we'll continue to have those conversations with our Saudi counterparts moving forward.
So the deal is dead if Saudi Arabia doesn't join. And have you any indication that Saudi Arabia is even considering this?
Again, the president has spoken directly with the Saudis about this in numerous conversations in the past, and the administration will continue to engage in those conversations. Alexandra.
Be exempt from international inspections as part of this deal if it moves forward?
I don't want to comment on the specifics of the deal as we're still, again, as I just said, talking especially about this very important condition that the president raised this morning. Alexandra.
It's so good to see you now that you're back.
You too.
So Treasury Secretary Bannon voiced concern this week on China potentially distilling or stealing AI technology from the United States, kind of manipulating it as their own. Anthropic said that the largest distilling attack happened last month. Do you think this will come up when the president meets with President Xi in September?
Well, I have had the honor of being part of some of the meetings and discussions between President Trump and President Xi, and I can tell you there is always a wide range of topics that come up. I would imagine this would be something. It's of high importance to the president and of this administration to obviously ensure that America remains dominant in the AI race, and we're obviously tracking the particular situation that you mentioned.
I have one more, if you don't mind. This week we've seen some major players in Democrat politics voicing or alerting really on how much influence socialism, communism has had now on kind of mainstream Democrat politics. Is there any chance that the president would be interested or is considering working with left of center Democrats to push back on this?
Well, unfortunately, we don't seem to have too many of those left in the Democrat Party. We have literal self-proclaimed communists who are winning elections and who are claiming to be the new leadership of the Democrat Party. I think the vast majority of Americans understand the dangers of communism. Just look at countries all over this world. As an example, Cuba right now is a country that is about to be a failed state because of the communist policies of the past several decades. Communism should never be allowed to lead this country, and the president obviously is strictly opposed to it and all the dangers that it reaps. We've seen it happen across the world. Meredith.
Just to continue on the Saudi nuclear deal, do the Saudis agree with this interpretation since it wasn't part of the initial agreement? And has the president talked to MBS since this new condition was announced?
As you know, the president just put out this statement a few hours ago. I don't believe he's had a call with MBS in the hours since. However, this is something that he has raised in previous conversations and has also said many times in the past. John, in the back, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. In regards to this deal, in the past, the Saudi government has said they will not consider entering into the Abraham Accords unless and until there's a Palestinian state. What makes you think that they're going to change their minds on their position regarding that?
Again, I won't get ahead of the president's conversations, but this is something that he feels very strongly about and has spoken about it in the past and will continue to uphold.
Can I ask you one other question?
Sure.
Just playing devil's advocate, why does Saudi Arabia get a civilian nuclear deal, but Iran doesn't get a civilian nuclear deal?
Well, again, this agreement is still being worked out. Well, it will eventually, hopefully, be finalized with the condition that the president spoke about this morning. But this agreement in particular, as it's been discussed thus far, does give priority access for American companies in the Saudi nuclear energy program, which will ultimately benefit American industry workers and supply chains. So the deal that has been discussed thus far and will continue to be discussed absolutely puts America first, and that's obviously very important to this president. Ed.
Thanks, Caroline. So Friday, the Section 122, the 10% global tariff, goes away. Is the president going to ask Congress for an extension, or what's next?
Well, I know the USTR, our great Jameson Greer, trade representative, will be having an announcement on that very soon, later today. I don't want to get ahead of him, so I would just tell you to stay tuned for more details.
Okay, and then one more on the president's going to have some big utility companies at this event later on today. We're now a year and a half, so to speak, into his pro-energy policies. Is he going to pressure those executives to lower energy prices, not just maintain the prices?
Well, look, as I mentioned earlier, the Ratepayer Protection Pledge, that is a novel idea drawn up by this president, his team, to ensure that data centers in communities, where those communities want data centers, that these big CEOs and energy companies are picking up the tab for the energy costs in these communities, so the American taxpayer not being fronted with those bills. And the pledge today is being expanded to acknowledge all elements involved in building and operating data center, the governors who appoint the state regulators, who set the power prices, the utilities and the co-ops that sell the power, and in addition to the tech companies that have already signed the pledge. So you'll continue to hear more about that from the president in a few hours at 2:30 when he goes over to the EPA. Sophia.
Have you spoken to the president about what he wants to do about Chinese AI models if they are found to have stolen American IP? Does he want to sanction them? Or what actions can be taken without undermining broader U.S.-China trade talks or cutting off American startups that are increasingly reliant on them?
Sure. Well, I won't get ahead of the president on any potential actions, but obviously these conversations are taking place, and again, they're of the utmost importance, not just for our national security, but to ensure America remains dominant in this space. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. Has President Trump spoken with FIFA President Gianni Infantino about his interest in nominating him for UN Secretary General, and can you explain his interest there? And secondly, just a minor point of clarification on the Saudi nuclear deal. Did Prime Minister Netanyahu request this provision?
Not to my knowledge, no. Again, as I told you, this was an idea the president has long had. It was the president and his team in the first term that began and signed the Abraham Accords with several countries in the region, between those countries and Israel. And the president obviously wants to expand on that historic accomplishment from his first term. To your first question about Gianni Infantino, I don't know if he and the president have discussed that. I haven't been present for all their conversations. I know they speak quite frequently, and the president has a lot of respect for Gianni and what he has done with FIFA. As we all just saw, the World Cup was a tremendous success here at home. It not only was hugely beneficial to our businesses and our local economies across the country, but I think it showed that America is the greatest country on earth, and the president is grateful to Gianni for all of the efforts that he had to make that dream a reality here in the United States. Danny.
Thanks, Caroline. Is President Trump or the administration, do they have any plans to intervene in the extradition process for the Tate brothers?
No. We've already answered that question. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary Bolling said that election officials that knowingly allowed non-citizens to vote could be prosecuted and fined. Is this option being considered in New Jersey after the governor revealed that thousands of non-citizens were registered to vote there?
Well, for any prosecutions, obviously, I would always defer you to the Department of Justice. But what I will say on New Jersey and this governor, the fact that she just all of a sudden decided to put out a press release saying President Trump and Republicans have been right about non-citizens on our voting rolls is not a coincidence. I think this governor is saying this because she realizes this administration is serious about getting to the bottom of illegal aliens voting and being on our voter rolls in our country. The Secretary of Homeland Security, as you know, sent a letter to several states, including New Jersey, requesting that non-citizens that are on their voter rolls need to be reported to DHS and need to be removed from those voter rolls. So that's why all of a sudden she is speaking truth about the fact that this does take place in states across the country. It is completely unacceptable to have non-citizens on American voter rolls voting in U.S. elections. And she says it's 6,600. We suspect it's a heck of a lot more, not just in New Jersey, but in states across the country. The president is hell-bent on getting to the bottom of this. And it's also why we need to pass the Save America Act to ensure that only U.S. citizens are voting in U.S. elections. And I understand the House had a great accomplishment yesterday with passing the budget resolution resolution which has as much of the Save America Act as possible, and we encourage the Senate to move forward with passing that resolution into law so the president can sign it into law by the August recess. It's of the utmost importance to this president, but also to the American people who support this bill overwhelmingly. Mary in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. One on Sophia Cunningham and then on self-driving cars.
Sure.
Sophia Cunningham in the WNBA has been attacked as a MAGA Barbie for saying it's common sense for men to not be in women's sports and locker rooms. Is the president following this story, and has he reached out to her?
I don't believe he has reached out to her. I know he is following the story. As you know, this is something the president feels strongly about as well, and the American people do too, that men should not be playing in women's sports. It's completely ludicrous that anyone could support that. It's even more ludicrous that you do have Sophia Cunningham, a female athlete herself, very accomplished in her own right, coming forth and speaking that truth that men shouldn't play in women's sports. We want to protect women and girls, and the backlash she is receiving from Democrats and left-wing figures across the country is astonishing. They are clearly very out of touch with the American public on this issue, which again is an 80-20 issue. It's common sense. It's rooted in basic biological fact that men should not be competing against women on playing fields across the country.
Thank you. And then really quick on
Sure.
self-driving cars. There's legislation right now to ban China's self-driving car technology from U.S. roads. Does the White House have a position on this? And broadly, how does the president feel about self-driving cars himself?
Well, you know, the president did have a red Tesla here at the White House for quite some time, so he's a supporter of them. I know he's purchased some self-driving cars for his family members, his grandchildren, so I think he supports them and Americans who want to drive them. But with that said, I don't know about the specific legislation. I will check in with our Legislative Affairs Office and we'll get you a statement on that. Reagan.
One question for you on Thune and then one on Darlene Graham. The president seemed yesterday frustrated with Leader Thune when he was speaking in Georgia. Is his patience running out with Leader Thune? And then the president recently endorsed Darlene Graham right after her appointment to Senate. What caused him to endorse her so quickly?
The president met with Darlene and thought she will be a great representative for the great people of South Carolina and will carry on her brother's legacy of public service in that beautiful state. So the president is fully supportive of Darlene and her honorable decision to run and, again, to continue her brother's legacy. With respect to your first question on, remind me?
Thune, if his
Yes.
patience is running out.
Look, the president spoke about this directly yesterday. His patience is running out. He wants to see as much of the Save America passed as possible by the August recess. He knows that's what the American people want to see passed. He was just traveling on the road yesterday, spoke about this, and there was a very loud applause from the people in the audience, the everyday Americans, because voter ID is common sense. They want proof of citizenship in our elections, and the president feels very strongly about that. And I would just add, you know, the American people elected overwhelmingly Republicans to lead not just this White House, but also the House and the Senate. The House did its job. The Senate needs to do its job too. I know it's a brief briefing today, but you're going to hear from the president directly twice today at 2:30 and also at 4:30. And we will see you all tomorrow night at the Correspondents' Dinner. Thanks, guys.
Take a short commercial break, previously scheduled short commercial break. We're going to return to the war room in just a moment.
行动，行动，行动！中共已完了。Take down the CCP。
Just beginning, but the games you want to play. Bring it on and now we'll fight to the end. Just watch and see. It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We're going to break down all the press conference, hopefully maybe in the afternoon show. want to thank Denver for being on top of things. Of course, it was a shorter press conference than we thought. I anticipated would go at least over an hour, maybe an hour and a half for all the topics out there. A lot of the topics are turning to, turbulence. In fact, Axios is reporting the president's going to have meetings this afternoon, maybe tomorrow, but a potential massive strike on Iran that would really up the ante here, more than just going after military targets, maybe civilian targets. Axios seems to have pretty good access to the White House, has not been refuted. We'll obviously get on all that. But now more than ever, in times of financial turbulence, Birch Gold, take your phone out, text Bannon 989898. It puts you in touch with Philip Patrick and the team. Talk to him about 401ks, IRAs, all of it that you can roll into a gold IRA with tax-deferred methods. They're the experts at us, so make sure you check it out. You can also get End of the Dollar Empire, all of it. Everything from Birch Gold, all the information is free, and there's no obligation. Now, also, you talk about inflation, you talk about having difficulty making ends meet. Health insurance is through the roof. We got an alternative for you, but it's going to take some due diligence on your side. America's Health Share. We got our own landing page, freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. That's freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. Immerse yourself in the information, talk to the company. It's a whole different way of looking at how to cover your health costs. It can be very effective, but you need to know what you're getting into. freedomforhealth.org/Bannon. You get 1 month free of your shift, but that's not the reason for doing it. Make sure you look at this alternative if you want to cut your cost. The Amy Kramer is going to be with us tonight at 5 o'clock. We got a ton of stuff to go through on this whole AI that we got to drill down on, because behind the scenes is now more important than ever. I do want to finish on an upbeat note here. An old friend of the show, Chris Fenton, is with us. Chris, you've been one of the leaders of talking about how the Chinese Communist Party is influencing our content. They're all over the financing of films, saying what films has been in. You've written a great book about it. You also are a guy saying, hey, look, there's a ton of woke product out there. There's all this controversy about the Odyssey. Is it too woke? People are coming up now and saying, hey, will Elon put up $100 million to have Mel Gibson make his own version of directly what the Odyssey says? But you've made a film, particularly one of those classic summer films. The feedback I'm getting from people, particularly people on the conservative Christian right, is that this is really the first comedy that's done in a sophisticated way that has a very powerful Christian message. Talk to us about it. I do want to play the trailer, but tell us about it first.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing accomplishment. I'm patting myself on the back a little bit here, because obviously I've been very much to blame in terms of a lot of the offshoring of what we were doing manufacturing wise in the TV and film business, and on top of it, bringing in very subtle soft power messaging from Beijing and China itself for the globe. So this movie is 100% American. In fact, we hired 1,200 Americans to make this film. We shot it in America, and it is vintage, like Americana as far as a story. It's a summer camp story where we really found the nuance between people of faith who will love it and also people that are secular by nature. In fact, we had a preview screening last night for 200 people in Manhattan Beach, which you know well is probably 50-50 faith-based and not. Yep. They loved it. Yep. And in fact, one of my good friends who's a CEO and also a member of the Bohemian Grove, if you can believe that, came up to me and said, I am so happy that you re-showed me the quality of American-made product through this movie, because we have really screwed up the way we've handled this globalism over the last several decades, and we need to return manufacturing here.
Chris, let's play the reason I think people love this is that if you're not faith-based, it's just a great little comedy, summer comedy, that kind of thing. You go in the theater and have a good time. If you're faith-based, it's got a very powerful and strong message. Let's play the trailer and we'll come back to you.
Officer Montgomery. Your fraternity is still on probation. You're not throwing a party tonight, are you?
Party? Oh.
So close to me, Booty, we can almost taste it.
Oh.
We are Beta, Alpha, Delta. To a night we'll never forget.
Yeah. In a night we won't remember, boys.
Public intoxication, destruction of school property, disturbing the peace.
Rather than allowing this mistake to ruin our lives, let's make good out of it.
So, community service.
Dude, how are we going to get 120 hours in 2 weeks?
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Aren't you an answer to my prayers?
I am.
We're looking for more male counselors for Camp Burning Bush.
Tyler, in order to make this work, we really got to do our homework.
If your Bible's falling apart, chances are your life ain't.
Come on, so good.
Peace be with you, Father.
You can just call me Tom. You tell me a little bit about your walk?
My walk is fast.
Nah, his walk is steady.
Steady.
We ain't taking no. Let's get the rest of these bags on the bus, and then it is all aboard. Choo choo.
Is the seat taken?
Actually, we're supposed to sit with one of the campers. Let me see if I can find your guy. Oh, there he is.
Would you rather smell like a foot or look like a foot?
Is everyone excited for camp?
Whose idea was it to come to this stupid camp?
Oh no.
I hate kids.
You're not supposed to be on your phone.
All right, keep that little 10-year-old mouth shut.
I'm 12.
Then let's start acting like it, yeah? I hate camping, and we're not Christians.
Our Father, who does art in heaven. Hello, be your name.
We ain't taking no.
I'm on to you. We've got to come clean.
You say something, we get kicked out. That's great, bud. Is that you and your dad?
It's you and me. Who are you, Grayson?
I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
It's time for a counselor makeover.
On. So good. So good.
Tyler! Hey, Shadow, have you seen Tyler? Nope, sorry. Okay. Tyler!
Good stuff.
Chris Fenton, we got about 45 seconds. Where do people go see this film? I want to make sure people
Yes.
get an opportunity to go where they see it in the theater.
Yeah, so go to badcounselors.com. You can find tickets and theaters that are playing right by you right there to go see it. Go celebrate American made. Let's get President Trump to push through initiatives to help us bring back the 3 million jobs that fill this ecosystem, where 80% of them are outside of California and Los Angeles.
Wow.
We're talking Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, where we shot this. This is an American situation that we got to take care of. Lots of great jobs for lots of great Americans.
One more time. Where do they go right now to see where they can go see this film?
Badcounselors.com. It'll be in 700 theaters nationwide.
Why? Fenton, great job. Talk to you after the show. Great job. Charlie Kirk is next. The Charlie Kirk Show. We're back here at 5 o'clock. A lot going on today. See you then.